Hello, and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan. Today's topic is getting off to a good start at the beginning of a new semester. And a definition to get out of the way at the beginning is your degree plan. And a degree plan is a list of courses that you have to take and pass to earn that degree. And the degree plan will include required classes and elective classes. And then also another definition or an explanation is efficient versus effective. Efficient is getting tasks done with the minimum amount of effort, and effective is getting the right tasks done. So you can be efficient at something, but if you're getting the wrong things done, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Right? And why I think this video is important is because if you dig yourself into a hole, if you do badly in a class at the beginning of the semester, and it makes it harder to dig yourself out going on. So if you don't learn the material in the beginning of the semester and then you try to make up for that later on, it's just going to take more and more work. So starting off strong and staying strong during the semester is the best way to go. All right. And at the beginning of the semester, one of the things you should do is go back and look at what worked last semester. So if this is you're continuing your college career, what worked last semester? If you're starting your college career, here's some things to think about. What were your good times and places to study? Did you find that if you worked at the beginning of the day in the morning, that those were your most productive times? Were your most productive times in the afternoon? Or were they in the evening? And by productive, I mean where you actually got things done. Not that you spent 3 hours working on a problem set and didn't get things done. What were your most productive times when you actually got things done? So once you realize what your productive times are, you can use those times for important things. You know, I know me personally, I am not a morning person. I am not going to get any benefit out of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to try to get work done. My productive times are in the evening. It always has been. So if you know that, then you can work around your schedule as much as you can. That's not to say that if you're an evening person like me or a night owl that you're going to get out of having to take 8 a.m. classes. Sometimes that's the only time the class is offered and you're just going to have to kind of suck it up and deal with it. And as far as what places were good to study, dorm rooms are probably some of the worst places to study because you've got all these distractions. You've got everybody else who's on a different schedule. Maybe morning's good for them or evening's good for them. So you've got all the music and comings and goings. So dorm room is probably one of the worst places to study. So when you figure out some place to study, and you should probably have multiple places to study just for variety's sake, don't make it easy for your friends to find you, because when you go and you're studying, you need to be able to focus and concentrate. You don't want people coming by just to, hey, see how you're doing, or chat to see if you want to go to lunch or dinner. I mean, you need to have those things kind of scheduled out farther in advance. I mean, not every day, obviously, but you need to have some dedicated times for studying. And you need to train your mind that, okay, when I go to this place, this is my place to study. I'm not surfing the internet. I'm not playing on my phone. In fact, I'm going to turn those things off so you can focus and use those times and places to be productive so that you can get things done. And one of the areas or times of day when students tend to let things get away from them, or they do things that aren't as productive as if you have a second period class and a fourth period class. Well, that third period, that is the time where you should go and hide yourself away someplace and do homework and not be socialized. And again, you don't have to do that every day, but you should make a habit of 2, 3, 4 times a week. It's like, okay, I've got this block of time between classes. I'm going to use it productively so that ideally, by the time 5 or 6 o'clock rolls around and it's time for dinner, you should be done for the day. I'm not one of these people that gives a lot of credit for, oh, someone worked on this project for 10 hours. Well, if they worked on it for 10 hours and it's still crap, then it's still crap. If someone worked on something for 2 hours and it's great, I don't care how long you spend on it. Your professors generally don't care how long you spend on something. Did you get the right answer, and did you do a good job on the project? So being, again, focused and concentrating on things is a lot better than just kind of haphazardly doing things. And you need to ask yourself, can you really study and learn when you're distracted? Can you really study when you've got the TV going or a video playing or music on? I can't. I learned that very early on. I can't study in front of the TV. I can't have music going. When I am working, whether it's writing a report or working on drafts of one of my books, it has to be quiet. There's no music going. I probably have a fan going to kind of drown out the street noise, but I need it quiet to study. If your grades are great and you can have music blaring in the background or video going in the background, congratulations. Good for you. I'm not here to tell you have to change your ways. But if you find your grades are slipping, you're not able to do as well in college as you did in high school, you're not able to do as well this semester as you have in the past, then maybe your classes are getting more difficult and maybe you really do need to focus. So if your grades start to fall, then look to go someplace where you can focus more in an undistracted atmosphere. And again, when we talk about finding places to study other than your dorm room, 40 minutes or so of concentrated, uninterrupted studying or work can be more productive than 2 hours of interrupted, kind of half-assing it, where you're just kind of reading, but you don't remember when things are going through. So again, it's all about getting things done, learning the material. I'm not here with a bunch of tricks and hacks or anything like that. You need to learn the material, but just putting in a bunch of time doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to learn the material. And Cal Newport has a book out, How to Become a Straight A Student. It's a worthwhile read. I've read that. Cal wrote that when he was a senior at Dartmouth, so he basically interviewed a bunch of other Tau Beta Pi type folks, and I was not a Tau Beta Pi member, so the Tau Beta Pi is basically like kind of the honor society for college, a bunch of smart people that do very well in school. So he went and interviewed a bunch of those folks. So these are tips from a bunch of other students at high-level schools of how they got the grades to get into Tau Beta Pi. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But those are the kind of people that he interviewed, so it's worth a read. Another thing to look at the beginning of the semester is, are you involved in too many extracurricular activities? I know any of you have seen more than a couple of my other videos. I seem to be always slamming extracurricular activities. Having an extracurricular activity or two is fine. It's what college is all about. But if you have 3, 4, 5 things that you're doing outside of classwork, and your grades are slipping, then you need to really look at that. So if you had a bad semester last semester, and you're looking at, well, okay, I've had all these extracurricular activities, or I was going to all these football or basketball games to cheer for the team, you need to look at what's important. Your grades are important. You can have a few extracurricular activities. If you're doing bad, you need to kind of rein those extracurricular activities in. If you're a 4.0 student, you're probably not going to be watching this video. But if you're a 4.0 student, if you have 5 extracurricular activities you're heavily involved in, great, awesome, carry on. But if your grades are slipping, the extracurriculars are one of the places you need to look at cutting back. If you have a part-time job or full-time job, if you're working your way through college, did your boss respect your work schedule? Meaning, if you told them, hey, I can only work 20 hours a week, were they scheduling for 30? If you said I can only work 10, were they scheduling you for 20? So if you need that money, there's no other way around it, you have to work, okay, then you need to be careful how many classes you take. Could you really take a full-time load? I've had students in the past who were working a no-kidding full-time 40-hour-a-week job plus taking a full load of classes, and they did amazing. I've had folks who were working a part-time job and didn't do so good, and folks who were not working at all and weren't doing so well in school. So it's a matter of being focused, and some people are just better students than others. My undergrad GPA was a 3.1, and all I had to do was school. But when I was working full-time for master's and PhD, doing the master's and PhD part-time, my grades were much better. So it just really depends on the person. And one of the things to bear in mind is, you're going to have friends in college, hopefully. Are there people that are coming by constantly disturbing you. They're kind of the bad influence. It's like, hey, let's go out and do this, let's go out to dinner, let's go out to this party or that party. When you said, okay, this is a night that I have to study, are there people coming by to try to get you to do something else? And if you have people who are doing that, this is where those secret study locations come in handy. Don't tell your friends where you go to study. Those are your time. You go there to study. If people can't find you, if they can't get a hold of you, they can't disturb you. So again, when you're going in and you're in study mode, turn your cell phone off. Don't have your internet browser open unless you're actively doing real research for a project. And when you're done, turn it off so you're not tempted to go and start tooling around on the internet, because what you think is like, oh, I'll just watch this one video or look at something, then 2 hours later you've missed a class and now you've had 2 hours where you didn't get anything done. Again, if you're living in a distracting environment, you're in the dorm, you're in an apartment complex with a lot of other college students, you're in a neighborhood with a lot of college students, and things are just noisy and not conducive to study, again, that's where you have to have these places where, hey, here are my study places. Here's where I'm going to go. By the time junior and senior year rolled around for me, I found some places at school where I could study, and it was quiet, and I could do what I needed to do. Master's and PhD, I was a lot older. I had my house. I could go into my office. I didn't have any distractions, so that's what worked for me. Did your time management and scheduling system work? And by time management is, where do you have to be when? What are you going to do when? So that's your time management and scheduling system. Did you have a system? You really should have some kind of a system, whether it's something on your cell phone. I'm old school. I use a month at a glance. You open it up and you see the whole month, and you've got these little squares. I have really tiny handwriting. I can work out my schedule in those little blocks. When I was working on my PhD, I was commuting between Houston and College Station. I was running my business for part of that. I was also an adjunct professor at a different school. All those things going on, I kept my schedule on that 1 month at a glance book. I've tried other more complicated scheduling systems, and they were just more hassle than they were for me. It's whatever works for you, but don't waste a whole lot of time scheduling things to where you're not actually getting the work done. It's definitely important. You have to get the work done. And the scheduling thing, have something written down, whether it's physically written down or electronically recorded, so that you know when all your classes are, when assignments are due, when study groups are meeting, things like that. So schedule your time. And remember that it's not set in stone that, oh my gosh, I have to do this here. If something comes up, then something comes up and you just move things around. Just be careful about moving things around so much that your schedule becomes completely meaningless. And at the beginning of the semester, one of the things you should do is look at all the classes you have and what classes that you have are required classes. What classes do you have to pass to stay on track for your degree plan, or what classes are prerequisites for another class? Meaning if you're taking Calc 1 because it is a required class and you have to take Calc 2 next semester, well, if you don't pass Calc 1, you're not going to get to take Calc 2. So that is a class that you need to make sure you do well in. Whereas if you have an elective, let's say you have to take some kind of history class, so you signed up for some history class, it's like, well, if you don't pass that history class, that's not necessarily a prereq for something else. You still would have to go and take another history class or some other elective to make up for that class you didn't pass. But not doing well and not passing that elective class is not going to necessarily derail your degree plan, derail your graduation date. And if you're going to a small school and you don't pass a required class, that may knock you back not just one semester, that may derail you for a whole year, because maybe that school only teaches that class once a year. When I taught soil mechanics at Prairie View, we offered soil mechanics once a year. Texas A&M up the road had two classes of soil mechanics each semester during the regular year, plus once over the summer. So they had 5 different opportunities within a calendar year to take soil mechanics, where at Prairie View we only had 1. So and soil mechanics is a required class for civils to graduate. So if you didn't pass soil mechanics, then you are out of cycle for a year. You lost a whole year of your schooling unless you could go make that up someplace over the summer. And if you derail your graduation date, again, I'm a big fan of graduating in 4 years if it's a 4-year program, just so you can get in and out and not incur as much debt, and you can get working faster and have money coming in rather than just going out. But if you have to put another year in because you had trouble with one class, again, that could add to your debt. It's going to add to your graduation date. And the thing to look at also is, do you have a class that has either a group project or a major writing assignment? And if you go and look at most any of these study guides or recommendations for how to do well in school, it's all about not waiting till the last minute. So regardless of what book you go to, it's not waiting till the last minute. If you've got a group project or a major writing assignment, you really need to start on that and work at it in small chunks. The whole thing of, oh, I'm just going to work on my term paper, I've got a 30-page term paper, I'll just work on it the week before. And you may be able to bang something out, and maybe you'll get an A on it, or maybe you'll do well enough for whatever grade you're satisfied with for the class. But if it's near the end of the semester, you're going to have all these other things going on that can just be a lot of stress. So students tend to add a lot of stress to themselves by waiting till the end. And I was not a perfect student. There were things that I let go till the end. So it's kind of a do as I say, not do as I did in my undergrad days. My master's and PhD program, I was much better at that. But even again, towards my senior year of undergrad, I was getting things done early just so that I wouldn't have to stress about things. All right. So whether it's a group project, excuse me, or a large writing assignment, don't wait till the end. It's better if you've got to have 15 hours to work on that. If you break that into 10 sessions of an hour and a half, it's going to be a lot less stressful than one 15-hour grind. And if you're going to have a class, if you have a class that you know is going to be difficult or you think is going to be difficult, think about forming a study group. Getting maybe 2 or 3 other people together that you're going to meet once a week, once every other week, or if it's not necessarily a full study group, that at least you have each other's contact information and you can talk to each other about the problems. This is not that you're going to copy each other's homework or anything like that. It's if you're working on a problem, you just can't quite get it, and it's too late to go to office hours, you can't get a hold of the TA, or then you have other students that you can go talk things out with, and you go and say, hey, here's where I got to, here's what my thinking is, does that make sense? And someone could say, oh yeah, that makes sense, but this part's wrong, and then boom, you go on. There's no extra reward for banging your head against the wall for 5 hours over one problem. If you're getting stuck at one place, go get some help to see where you're going wrong and move on. All right. And also remember that whether whatever advice I've given you, or whatever how to study books you look at, or whatever, if your school has some kind of study guide, not everything works for everybody. So don't be afraid to try different things. And if your study habits are working, if you're getting the grades that you want to get, great. Keep doing what you're doing. It's just that if things change, if your grades start going down and they're not what you want, that's when it's time to try something else. So hopefully this has helped. Take care, and I'll see you next time.